This is Scott Drake. Thanks for watching the Legal Broadcast Network. A 22-year-old man has been charged with 3 murder counts and drunken driving Friday in a crash that killed Los Angeles rookie pitcher Nick Adenhart and 2 others. Here to talk about it is a frequent guest. He's Mike Kraut from the Kraut Law Group in Los Angeles. He's a former prosecutor and deputy district attorney. Thanks for weighing in, Mike.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. Now, this is an awful story, and it brings to light the kind of thing that happens all the time, but in this particular case, somebody of celebrity status is affected. And what's going on here? What can you tell us about the charges here?
Well, the young man, Nick Adenhart, obviously was at the beginning of a very promising career, and so was the 2 other people that were in his vehicle, the young woman and the other young man who was in law school, and the 4th person who survived. The driver, his name is Gallo. He, 22 years old. He out of San Bernardino, had a prior DUI. The problem is just exactly what you said. This is something that happens in a moment of time. It can happen to any of us just driving down the street, and it happened to somebody who we all connect with, which is a sports icon.
With regard to the charges to Gallo, there seemed to be some uncertainty as to whether or not murder charges would be filed against him. What caused that to occur?
My understanding is that they are going to file murder charges. In California, if an individual has had a past DUI and one of the conditions of probation on a first-time DUI is not only to take an alcohol class where they teach you the risks and dangers of driving under the influence of alcohol, but you also sign what's called a Watson murder advisement. And at the end of that form, it says, you understand that if you drive under the influence of alcohol and in the future somebody is killed as a result of your driving and negligently doing so, then you can be charged with murder, and you sign off on that. What happens is the suspect, Andrew Gallo, who's 22, had a previous DUI, had signed off on that, actually had a suspended license, so he knew he wasn't allowed to drink, and then apparently had almost 3 times the legal limit in his system at the time he ran through the red light, killing the 3 individuals. In California, you can be charged with murder if that death or any death results from the DUI, if you have knowledge of the risks and dangers. And it's called implied malice murder. Implied malice murder says if you know the dangers and risks, you still act waiving those dangers and risks, and somebody is killed, then you have implied malice to such a degree that it's second-degree murder, and you face a sentence of 15 years to life. And each person is separate, so it's 15 times 3, that's 45 years to life, plus the other charges, and he now faces 55 years to life.
I often hear people comment here, at least in Arizona, and I'm sure it happens in California too, that drunken driving laws have gotten somewhat draconian. In this particular case, it seems justified. He also left the scene too, didn't he?
Right. It's clear. He understood he wasn't allowed to drive, and no matter how drunk or under the influence of the alcohol, he was still just doing what was best for him.
I mean, and it's also odd that somebody driving that fast hits another vehicle, kills a number of people, he's not injured, and he's able to drive away. That's unbelievable to me.
Well, I don't think he drove away. I think he got out of the van.
Okay.
And he actually ran away, and he was found running 2 miles away on the side of the 91 freeway when he was apprehended. So you know that his system was already digesting and processing the alcohol that he had consumed.
Right.
So by the time they had taken their test, he was 3 times the legal limit, and his pumping and his metabolism is processing this alcohol. You can imagine that it was significantly higher than 3 times the legal limit at the time. But from my history as being a former prosecutor, it is an individual who's drunk, who's most relaxed during an accident, and then when you're very relaxed, you tend not to get as severely injured. And that's why they tell you in a car accident never lock your legs, because it'll drag, you put your knees right up to your face. So in this case, it's not surprising that he wasn't hurt so badly. He actually ended up leaving his brother-in-law in the van who was injured, and that's where the additional charges are, is leaving the scene of an accident when somebody's seriously injured or killed. The element of that, though, is an important one. The prosecution will need to show that he knew that somebody was severely injured or possibly killed in there, and that's done circumstantially. I know that there's a civilian witness who was working at a gym right next door, and she was walking into work, and she said that one of the bodies, I think it was the female, was actually the 20-year-old Courtney Stewart, was a student at California State University at Fullerton. She was actually hanging out of the vehicle. So she had already passed, and he left the vehicle at that point, and that adds the additional charges.
They said that homicide detectives interviewed him for about 4 hours afterward, and they didn't disclose what they talked about, but they said they had a lot to talk about. What would that kind of interview entail, other than the obvious?
Well, they're going to look very specifically. They're going to try and identify him as the driver. Well, if you looked at his booking photo, you're going to see that he had facial trauma. So that they're going to now go to his van, and they're going to take DNA evidence of the glass right in front of where the driver was and match it to his DNA. And that's going to place him in the driver's seat if he won't admit to being the driver. Even if he does admit it, they'll want to have something to substantiate it. The focus of a lot of that interview is going to be on his past DUI, his education, the alcohol classes he took, what he is aware of drinking and driving, and they're going to ask him a lot of questions about what do you expect would happen if do you think that you might have killed somebody if you would drive like this? And he's going to say yes. And the whole issue is going to be, how do you find that the person in their mind knew the risk, assessed the risk, and then weighed the risk? That's raising this to murder. That's their whole focus is going to be on how to show the implied malice. You know, they have to talk to him, by the way, over 4 hours, but part of the reason is they want him to be sobering up.
Right.
Because the whole issue under Miranda is, did the person consciously weigh? Now, if you're going to say that somebody is so drunk that they killed all these people, it works against you with Miranda because they may not consciously and with intelligent voluntarily be able to waive that right. So what they'll do is give him Miranda rights multiple times throughout it. Now, you understand you're free to stop. This is your choice. You know, and they oftentimes will tell him that he's not even arrested. They'll say, you're welcome to leave. You can get up and leave. And people don't. Right. And that's really what they're doing. Over 4 hours, they're going to make sure that he understood what his past was. And they're going to talk all of it. They'll just become his friend really in there. And they're like, man, how long have you been driving on a suspended license? They'll just keep getting it. And they'll just, any public defender who's going to come in on this is going to be cooked.
Yeah. Michael Kraut is the principal at the Kraut Law Group in Los Angeles. He's a former prosecutor and deputy district attorney, and he talks to us frequently on the Legal Broadcast Network. I appreciate you weighing in on this, Michael.
Thank you very much.
This is Scott Drake. You're watching the Legal Broadcast Network. This is Scott Drake, and we know that as an attorney, you're very busy. That's why we have more content just like this at your fingertips, conveniently located at LegalBroadcastNetwork.com. Thanks for watching.